Welcome back to another Epidose of these crazy people that just eat meat and never stop talking about it. Today, we got Chris with us again. He's dropping by for a little color commentary, and Justin, of course, and Tom. This is a nice little long format, but probably not too long, meat mosaic video. We also do the short ribs, which are shorter ones. They're usually like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, something like that. But today we're doing a longer format one. And what's our topic today, Justin?
KaChava, the hit new vegan, super healthy, mega health, super duper health group vegan drink.
Yeah, I got an ad for it, and it said it was the world's healthiest meal replacement, but it's plant-based. Dun, dun, dun. So anyways, today we thought we'd look at this new product that we keep getting ads for. So since they keep sending us the ads, we figure we might as well take a swing at it. So let me share the screen with you guys so you guys can see what I'm seeing, and let's get into it. So this world's healthiest meal replacement is a powder that comes in a bag. I'm sure you guys think that, the healthiest meal you could possibly have is going to be a powder in a bag, right? What could be more natural?
Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah, of course. It's not processed at all.
It it comes in vanilla, chocolate, and coconut acai.
Acai.
Now I refuse to say that. Just like I'm not saying quinoa anymore. It's canola. Some ridiculous berry from some jungle somewhere. Hey,
yeah, but people are gonna call you a boomer if you don't say it right.
Well, they can call me a boomer. You know how it is.
Oh, look at all those smiling faces. Can we close it? I mean, look, she's clearly healthy because she has a helicopter behind her. That's what it means, right?
Yeah.
And they're probably getting paid.
You think?
Oh yeah, I could just see it.
I don't think this ad has enough diversity. I only see two people of Latin or no people of Latin descent. I see two people of African descent and a bunch of yuppies. Can I say yuppies? Is that allowed in YouTube?
Yeah, and then the cow.
I don't know. I don't even know if yuppie is allowed in 2021, much less YouTube.
You just change it to yappies, all those yappies,
All I'm saying is that's an awful lot of honkies. That's all.
Honkies, good doodle do.
Yeah, what was it? Let's go. Let me scroll back up here because this stuff's $60 a bag. When do we figure out it makes like 14 shakes, 15 shakes?
Yeah, 15 shakes.
15 meal replacements. So I suppose if it's $60 for the bag and you're getting 15 meals out of it, it's not terribly expensive. It's what, $4 plus shipping per serving, something like that. Tax. So not cheap, but not horribly expensive, right? And so
that guy does not look very muscular. I mean, he's flexing, but I really don't see a lot of bicep action happening there.
Yeah, he's all right, I guess.
Yeah, Sean Baker will take him out.
Right. Yeah, certainly not huge, but anyways, they didn't really promote it as a muscle building shake. So like so many others out there. But True. It says it's got organic ginger, 70 plus superfoods and nutrients. So they have blended together like everything that doesn't move, apparently. All kinds of roots, yellow pea protein. Oh yeah, it's the best, right? All kinds of organic mushrooms. I don't even know how many types of mushrooms they put in here, but a lot. I mean, reishi, shiitake, maitake,
suanaki, shashinaki. Just making it up. I love these names. It sounds so funny.
Hey, Chris, you should invent like a new mushroom and say like, just grow it on like the mat of your bathroom. Yeah. And then dry it out and just say like, oh man, this is like so many nutrients, such a superfood. You can sell it to this company because they'll buy it from you
Yeah,
because
I'm gonna call it Shnaki Waki Tudawaki Nakarusaki.
Is that right?
you go.
Yeah, we're gonna just coin that.
And it
I don't know
cure
I don't know about
glaucoma.
the spelling, but that's okay.
We can just take care of that in post. It's all right.
Yeah, man. We'll edit it.
Yeah, there's no post.
I think the real problem with this whole advertisement thing, and they make all these colorful things, but again, going back to, which Bart always recommends, the appropriate species diet, and and this is not an appropriate species diet, and you got oxalates going in on, and you have so many ingredients, the body probably doesn't even know what to do with them, and then they just get wasted.
Well,
down the pipeline.
they always talk about antioxidants, but the thing is, all these carbohydrates produce more oxidative stress than the included antioxidants could ever counteract. That's assuming you can even absorb the antioxidants from these plant foods, because a lot of that we just don't absorb.
Right.
Goes right
the
through us.
oxalates too.
Right. Organic spinach, there's some oxalate in spinach. I don't know about all these other, I think cacao or coca.
There's spinach in there?
Yeah, organic spinach.
Of course there's spinach in it.
Yeah, well, I'm on the telephone. It's a little hard for me to see,
Chlorella. Yeah.
The bottom line, and Kelly, Sally K. Norton says, she's like the really oxalate expert. She says spinach is like one of the worst for oxalates.
Yeah, spinach and kale. One of my questions is, I wonder if I can't be, I know it's not raw, but I'm curious, because I guess you could eat raw cacao, right? Because some of this stuff, like the tart cherry, the tart cherry,
you okay, Justin?
I was, and then Chris yawned and threw me off. This is the kind of episode tonight, guys. It's all right. You can't really have that raw, or are they blending it because that's become a powder? So are they taking out the seed, because the seed could be, of some of these things, could be really problematic. So I mean, I'm just kind of curious. I wonder, because I don't see anything about.
I don't know exactly how they do it, but they probably freeze dry the stuff and then powder it, right?
Right.
I mean, they got amaranth in here, which is bird seed. I don't know.
Not to be confused with the awesome metal band from Sweden, Amaranthi, which is awesome.
Yeah, and they see the yellow pea protein is the one that kills me, because that's like one of the worst of the row crops, the big industrial farmed grains. Well, of course, there's all kinds of grains in here. You got to have some chai seed for some reason, and some where'd it go?
You gotta have your fiber.
Yeah.
But here's the interesting thing, guys. I've had flaxseed.
Yeah.
And it would never get digested. No. And so there's like this trick to where the yellow pea protein, and that's not even really absorbed.
Right.
And so I really think this is like a fake advertisement. Like, I know they're trying to do this, but from the addictive spectrum, talking from an addict point of view, because I could see how exciting this could be. And then my dingers go off in the dopamine center and be like, oh yeah, coconut and this and that. And especially since it would taste sweet. I mean, I'll get like 50 bags and down it like tomorrow.
Right.
So, it's not a problem for me. So this is not really good on any spectrum.
It's the world's healthiest meal replacement. You're just like, I'm going to have it 3-4 times a day. Right.
Right.
I have 20 times a day. I'll just chug it. I'll just replace meals. No problem.
You'll just throw drops of water and ice in the bag and just go to town with it like that.
I'll just IV that stuff right in my vein, man. I'll just get a bag at the hospital, IV it, no problem, man.
Oh, come on. You don't want to bypass drinking it because it's going to taste so good, right?
Yeah, man.
Now, would you be doing the chocolate, the coconut, acai, or the vanilla?
I'll put chocolate plus a pound of sugar in it at the same time.
Oh
I'll just
man, you
fly
know
high.
people are buying this and throwing honey in it. Like,
Oh yeah,
guaranteed.
especially
doing that.
with that. What's that doctor's name? Dr. Salatino Bambino Manacho.
Yeah.
What's that Italian doctor name?
Paul
Whatever.
Salad Dinosaur.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's how he talked about himself in one of the videos. It was hilarious. Yeah.
He'll definitely throw the honey in.
Yeah, he will. I could see Salatino drinking one of these. Not even kidding.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah. No, you raised a good point about the flaxseed. I mean, it's basically indigestible. And like one of the selling points is that I think they talk about how rich it is in omega-3 fatty acid, which it's a good thing to get, but not an easy thing to absorb from a plant source. You
yeah.
know, and the flaxseed is a tough nut to crack. I mean, it's hard to digest, you know. And
That was a funny joke, Tom. No, seriously, I love that. That's awesome. It's tough nut to crack. No, get the nut crack. No, I'm just kidding. Christmas time. I'm just kidding.
yeah, and flaxseed oil is one of the more durable plant oils, and that's why they make linoleum out of it, you know. It's
Oh
pretty
my
tough.
God. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, and you can soak flaxseed and it becomes like a jello actually, and you can actually use it as hair gel.
I thought that was the
Wow.
selling point for the chia seeds. Don't they get gelatinous when you soak
They
them?
do get gelatinous as well. Yeah. Maybe I got them confused. It's hard to keep them straight these days. Yeah, chia seeds can become gelatinous. And yeah, I used to drink like a chia drink that was like a gelatinous fruity juice thing. Yeah. You should drink that all the time.
Yeah, I tried making like fake bread out of flaxseed flour. And it was, you know, I was like, I tried it out. It was, you know, big in the keto community when I started. The coconut flour, flaxseed flour. There was one other one, I can't remember, but yeah, it's like I didn't think it was worth the hassle. I didn't really miss bread that much, but I remember trying to eat it and just like, yeah, it didn't seem to digest well. Same thing. I mean, you guys ever try to eat a bunch of almonds?
Yeah.
Well,
Justin
yeah,
used
yeah,
to eat a lot of
yeah.
almonds, right?
I did. Yes.
Pretty hard on the stomach, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, man, I agree. It's like you get that grumbling. But you know, the berries, like you got blueberry and strawberry, and for whatever reason, even when I try to eat them, you know, now or like in the past, like maybe 2 weeks, my teeth hurt. They actually hurt.
Mm. From
And so
chewing?
I'm sorry.
From chewing or some kind of reaction?
I don't know, Tom. It's really strange.
Mm.
But you know, I don't know if it's acidic, the berries in a way. I don't know what chemical reaction is going on, but I do have a dentist appointment. But anyway, the berries never used to bother me. So it's just kind of really strange. And then you got the spinach, and I used to eat spinach, you know, a while ago. And you know, the spinach would, if I eat too much, my stomach would be like, "What are you doing?" And then you have the kale. That kale, eating it raw, would like destroy my stomach. So and then even looking at the kale just visually, it doesn't even look appetizing. It looks like I just want to throw up looking at it.
Well,
It's
it looks like
disgusting.
a mean vegetable. Like it looks
Yeah, it looks,
angry.
yeah, it looks like a predator.
Well,
Like,
yeah, and
no joke.
kale, they started cultivating kale. Originally it was supposed to be some sort of animal feed, but even the
Wow.
ruminants don't want to eat it. So then they're like, yeah, let's start marketing it to people, right? And I remember the
Yeah.
last time I bought kale in the supermarket, the cashier, actually this happened like 3 or 4 times. She's like, "Oh, do you have a iguana?" And I'm like, "Iguana?" And she's like, and I'm like, "No." And she's like, "Oh, the only people who buy kale are the people with iguanas." I'm like, "Really?" Yeah. And of course they make chips out of kale, you know, I don't know if they bake them or something.
I've had
sometimes
those. Yeah, I've
season
eaten those. I've made them. Yeah, I've made them before.
Yeah.
Back when I was more plant-based. So there's a reason why, because you know, maybe there's people in our audience like, why the hell are we talking about this? So you can blame me. And the reason why you can blame me is because when I was plant-based or more plant-based, I would, something like this, I would have bought. I would have been a sucker. I really would have bought it. And, you know, I was down that rabbit hole. I was making juices, you know, with kale, apple. There's no apple in here. So that's interesting because apple didn't make the cut. It's not a superfood. But like kale, apple, spinach, carrot, cucumber, something, I don't know, whatever, you know, it's just like buy all the organic vegetables and with like a pea protein powder, or Garden of Eden, I think is the company. They make a protein shake. And yeah, I mean, I would have been all about it. I'd have been like, hey, it's sign me up 100%.
Yeah. So on circling back to what you said, why we're doing this. One, because we've all been inundated from childhood thinking that meat's bad for you, plant-based stuff is good for you, and we found out otherwise, right? So like the first ingredient listed here, yellow pea protein. First of all, plant proteins never come with the right ratio of amino acids, and there's all kinds of essential stuff in plant proteins that are missing from plant proteins that you get from meat. So you're, you know, if you lived on something like this, you'd still have to supplement, right? You're not going to get carnitine and carnosine and all that stuff. And then, you know, whole grain brown rice protein. So they've taken, again, rice protein, again, not the right amino acids. And these things all come packaged with anti-nutrients and natural pesticides. Now, a lot of people, we think about pesticides being sprayed in the environment to kill bugs, and we worry about getting sick from being exposed to that. But most of the pesticides that we are exposed to are natural pesticides made in the plants to dissuade predators from eating them, right? So
you talking about organic, or are you talking about non-organic pesticides?
Yeah, I'm talking about the plants making their own pesticides to repel pests.
Oh, okay, Tom. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we don't think about that, you know, that these plants have chemicals in them to discourage people and bugs and other animals from eating them. So aside from not having all the nutrients, not having amino acids in the right ratios, and then there's all the wild proteins that we're learning aren't so good, like gluten. Everybody's heard about gluten, but also lectins, you know, seem to be problematic for people. So here it is right here, organic quinoa.
Quinoa, it sounds like manure, like quinoa dump.
And again, the organic amaranth, which is, you know, birdseed.
That's incredible.
So
wow.
And the oats, I mean, when we were kids, and you know, weren't we all taught that like eating oats was good for us, a healthy breakfast typically, right?
Yeah, Quaker oats every morning.
Yeah, oats always made me hungry, so that never really worked for me.
Yeah, they're very hard on your teeth for some reason too. Eating oats is bad for your teeth.
Huh.
Because we don't have horse teeth, despite what the vegans might say.
Yeah. Well, and you know, oats too, you know, another one of those cereal grains that's, you know, basically a carbohydrate, right? That you got to cook the snot out of just so you can digest it.
Well, and I was gonna, so since you bring up the you know, plant toxins and things like that, I'm kind of curious if in this form they're more activated or less activated. In some respects, I kind of think this is better for you than eating like the actual plant, in that maybe you're not getting as much because it's so much mixed together and you're just pretty much, this is just going to go straight to your colon. And you don't really have the fibrous, leafy, you know, things that are disruptive to the gut. It might kind of be what I borrow from The Simpsons, Three Stooges syndrome, So I've talked about this before, I think on camera, where there's an episode of The Simpsons where Mr. Burns goes to the doctor and he gets all these tests done, and they're like, what do you have? You know, it was like, well, let me know. And it said, Mr. Burns, you have everything, you know, and they make up this thing called Three Stooges syndrome, where it's like, you see, but you're healthy because
all the diseases are fighting one another.
Yeah, all the diseases are fighting with each other. Exactly. So it might be like this in a weird, lucky way of this actually being healthier than eating the actual plants. If you were to eat all the plants individually, you would react less to having this than eating each of these plants individually in a day or something like that.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, some foods, when you cook them, you get more nutrients out of them, and some you get less. It just depends on, like raw meat is slightly more nutritious than cooked meat. But then, something like a tomato, you actually absorb some more of the nutrients from a tomato when it's cooked than when it's raw. So, or so the studies go. But a lot of these, they sell it by listing all these vitamins and biotin and calcium and iron, but you don't really know how much of that you can actually absorb because it is bound up in fiber. Now, this didn't seem to have a ton of fiber because it's only, was it 6 grams? Well, 6 grams per serving, which is, they say, is 21% of the recommended daily amount. So it's a decent amount of fiber, but a lot of the nutrients are bound up with the fiber and they just go right through you, so you don't absorb them. And then again, with things like phytic acid also binds to the nutrients and prevents your body from absorbing it. So they can pack all this stuff in here. Just because it's in here doesn't mean you can absorb it, right? And that's the issue. That's like, saying spinach is rich in vitamin C and iron and stuff like that, but you could eat a boatload of it and you may never absorb it. Plus, you probably eventually get irritated bowels from all that fiber, especially with the kale, right? I mean, the fiber in kale is some sturdy ass fiber. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it looks a sturdy plant. It's hard to even, it's like even try to take the leaf off. It's hard to rip the leaf. And it makes sense what you're saying, like even physically.
You're breaking up a little bit. So.
And the thing is, can you hear me? You all right?
Yeah, it seems like you're back.
You're breaking up a little bit for a second there.
Okay. What I was saying is, it's like even when you try to rip a kale leaf, in all honesty, it's very hard to rip them because even the physical structure, I don't know how to hybrid the plant, but and going off on the thing, which is very interesting, plants, I'm sorry to say, but there are addicting qualities to plants. I don't care about nutrition, oxalates. There are addicting qualities. And I think a lot of people don't understand that part with plants. And just knowing myself, sugar is from a plant, and I know this doesn't state any kind of sugar, but, I'm sure there's studies that there's probably addictive qualities to these certain plants. And no matter how good or an organic product is, it doesn't necessarily mean it's good for you.
Let's just start with the fact that it's probably sweet because it has some sugar added to it. I forgot let's see, total sugar 6 grams includes 5 grams of added sugars. So, the sweetness, we're all kind of biologically designed to be attracted to sweetness, but we evolved in an environment devoid of sweetness, right? So there's those rare berries or grapes or something like that, some fruit here and there in our environment when we're evolving, that we could only get seasonally and in certain places. And then something like this, you're probably going to be triggering a lot of that just attraction to the sweetness right off the bat, right? And then of course you get the feedback loop, right? Because you're feeding all the carbohydrate digesting enzymes or intestinal flora, and they send a signal to the brain saying, hey, we're running out down here, go get some more, essentially, right? So you get that feedback loop of wanting more carbohydrates as they digest. And then, like you said, who knows what other sort of chemicals in the plants themselves trigger some sort of craving or some sort of perhaps another what's your dopaminergic reaction, right?
Yeah, the dopamine. And you know what's interesting about dopamine? I don't know if you guys know this, but it was used in the context for us to remember if we were like hunting, or we found a successful place, or we found a place where there's food, or you know, like the berries we talk about, something where the brains on the dopamine center can say, oh, okay, I remember where it is because it felt a certain way. So since society has over triggered us 10 million times over, you know, because I know mine is shot, mine is, you know, out of kilter, you know, so it's just, you know, it's amazing how, you know, and now they're trying to sell us this product. And you know, and I think a lot of people, which is amazing, and I try to explain this to people in grocery stores when I talk to people, and I say, you know, because they sometimes they say they're anemic, and I'm like, you know, did you ever think of like meat-based diet, carnivore? I'm like, because plants, you know, and then like, you know, iron deficiency or anemic. I'm like, eat meat, you know, because that'll just fix it for you know, and there's so many good things in meat. And I know even when I eat meat myself, you know, even when I try to like snack on like other things, like I don't eat nearly as much as I would not eating meat. So meat in itself is sustainable, nutritionally sustainable. I mean, it's just for our body. And you know, and you take it a step further, you look at coyote digestive system and our digestive system, it's very right spot on. And so I love when scientists try to talk about how nonsensical it is when they talk about veganism. And you know, really they're I'm sorry to say, I don't mean to be rude, but they're talking out of their ass and they're ignorant people. And so, you know, it's just either you're going to be a scientific, thoughtful scientist, or you're just going to like be ignorant. And, you know, and it's so interesting. I was on Amazon and I was looking at these videos, and then they had all these veganisms and vegan stuff on. And I said, wow, I'm shutting this off. And I had to stop listening to it. And it's amazing how they just try to manipulate the science. So I see a lot of manipulation in this. It's organic. It's all this ingredients. Like I just see total marketing manipulation also.
It's vegan. Like if you drink this, it's going to raise your vibration, right?
Yeah. 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 Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I get it. So they say no preservatives, no artificial colors, flavors, sweeteners, no soy, no gluten, no dairy. Which, you know, some of that, you know, some people definitely need to avoid dairy. Some people need to avoid gluten. I personally don't think anybody should eat soy. So,
Right.
I
you know,
agree.
and most preservatives probably not a good thing, but some of them, I mean, if you put salt in something, you could preserve it with salt, right? So, not everything that's preserved is bad, right? So, but yeah, they have this
Oh,
giant concoction of all this stuff uh in a powder form, you know, and they flavor it with highly palatable flavorings like chocolate and vanilla. And how are we going to say it? Like,
coconut acai.
Yeah.
well, that's right. It was coconut and acai.
Yeah.
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 I wanted to point out that back on the nutrition, the vitamin C is lower than what I would expect. It's only 33 like milligrams. You know, people are always getting on us carnivores about what's going to happen with your vitamin C. And, you know, it doesn't seem to be a concern here.
Well, if you have 3 of
Vitamins,
them a day, you'll get to 100%, right?
I guess so. Yeah. Uh, and then I was noticing the disclaimer at the bottom, use with a balanced meal. Do not make this your sole nutrition, which I thought was really funny.
And they sell it has what, a meal replacement. That's hysterical.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think one meal, but you're not supposed to use it for all meals. But it's just
Yeah, but like me, I'll hear it the other way around. Meal
right,
replacement, But a
right.
lot of other people will hear it the other way around. I'm just not the only one. So,
And if
you
you're
know,
if you're helicoptering up to a mountaintop, maybe it's the only food you brought, so you're gonna be having 3 meals a day.
a helicopter.
So, just saying.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's interesting how they try to get you. The brown bag, earthbound, all those colors. That's a very visual thing.
Right.
Reminds me of coffee, actually. So that's
Coffee.
another trigger.
Hey,
Coffee,
Tom.
New York coffee.
Coffee. I'm sure people are having coffee with it as well.
Oh,
I did
yeah.
want to bring up, it does have, I think it has like 22,000 sales or 22,000 reviews of 4.7 it showed, of 5 stars, mostly 5 stars. And so I feel like, and I'm going to try and do this as best I can, but well, why are people rating it so high? Probably the people that are buying it are probably already kind of plant-based or have been looking for something like this, or already interested, or if nothing else, inundated with the bad information, as Tom always says. The other part is probably, I think, people that have healthy user bias. So I remember when I was more plant-based, that even though I didn't feel great, because of the message is this is what's best for you, you feel like, oh, I must be doing it right. And so you end up in that healthy user bias of just, it's in your mind of this is the right thing, this is a good thing, and you feel better because you're supposed to feel better because this is the right thing to do, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And then I think the third part is, well, yeah, if you replace this shake, say your typical morning routine is Lucky Charms, chocolate milk, and a donut at the office. And if
Yeah.
you replace all that with this shake, yeah, you're gonna have improvements because the fiber is something like 7 grams or 9 grams, if I remember right. And there's like 9 grams of carbohydrate. So it's technically in its package, and it also has MCT, the short chain fatty acid from coconut. So it is keto-ish. I think they could push hard to get a keto stamp on there too and increase their sales. Hey, sales department, if you watch this and you do that, kick back some to your buddy Justin over here. So I think, yeah, if you replace all that high carbohydrate stuff that you normally have in the morning with now a low carb option, you're probably going to feel better over time, or even I'll make the leap, might even enter a bit of a ketosis state, which would make you feel better up until lunch or so, when you start to have kind of a sugar crash because your body's not used to sustaining a level of ketosis at that point because you're still a carb burner. So those are kind of my reasons as to why it gets such a high rating. Do either of you have any speculation as to maybe why people are rating it so high? Unless they're just bots and paid for, I suppose that's also an option, a chunk of that maybe.
Well,
I just think we're on this kick, man. Like, I just think it's a very, like you kind of pointed out, like it's brainwashing, it's marketing, it's colors. Like there's literally scientists that study people's brains and what's going to capture and subconsciously what's going to get them to buy it. I mean, they literally do that. And so, it's like, no wonder people don't buy meat, because you look at it and it's like, well, for me, I know what good it does to me, because when I just saw the ribeye, I'm like, I got to have some steak. So, I know for me, but for people that are so brainwashed, it's hard to make that switch. And like the brown bag, that looks really good. The smell of like coffee, it's all those receptors. And then you put the cacao thing, because people are on the cacao kick and the coconut kick and the chai kick and the flax kick and the 3 and the 6 and the A and the D and the carrots and the blah 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 blah. So all in all. So I think it's everything. It's a whole combination. Because if you put meat in front of me and I don't know what meat can do for me, and I hear from the doctors that, I got to watch my meat intake, I would pick that thing. So yeah, I understand. Yeah, totally get where people are at. Yeah.
Yeah, it's convenient. And if you look at the nutritional ingredients on there, you go, wow, it's packed with all kinds of good stuff. What they don't tell you is how bioavailable they are, right? So a lot of those nutrients you're just not going to absorb, right? So
That's a definite.
in that respect, that it's easy to fall for the concept that this is some sort of superfood that's convenient and palatable or hyper palatable, and it's vegan, it's no preservatives, no artificial flavors and colors, yada yada yada. At $4 to $5 a serving, right? So yeah, if you still are in that, and let's face it, most people are still under the influence of the bad information we were raised with, the bad information that our parents were raised with, that you need to be eating plant-based foods, and you need to avoid meat because it's going to give you a heart attack or give you cancer or whatever, but plants won't somehow.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's amazing how people can't even make the connection. My grandmother lived till 101. She was born in Germany, grew up on a farm, and like ate mostly like a meat and potato diet. And my mom's a nurse, and they brainwashed her already.
Mm.
And knowing that she had half her stomach removed, knowing that my father had a stroke when I was 18 years old, knowing that he's on 11. I mean, I've seen what the brainwashing does, and yet people can't even make the connection and don't even want to do the research because they're so scared, because they feel like if they let go of their god of medication, they're going to crumble. Meanwhile, the body knows exactly what it's doing because it has innate intelligence, because it knows exactly what to do if we give it the right fuel. So, I wish people would just really go to the source and go hunt and go to the store and buy meat. I mean, it's really, it's that simple. Go work, job, money, paper, hunt, get meat. I mean, we get meat now. That's our hunting, to buy meat.
Well, and I think it's kind of natural for everybody to kind of think that, like, if this were true, if plants weren't as nutritious as we've been told, and meat isn't as bad for us as we've been told, in fact, it's the opposite, that they would already know it, right? That it's sort of like a tiny assault on the ego, right? To believe that I don't know this, right? How could this evade my detection? Because I'm a smart, savvy person, pays attention to these things, right? So
Voted for Biden, of course. Genius level IQ.
Sleepy Joe.
A for Brandon.
Me for Brandon.
So, anyways, yeah. So I get it. So I try not to be too hard on people for their choices, because like we've literally been brainwashed our whole lives, right?
Yeah.
And I was there. I mean, I really don't fault anyone that buys the shake, because roll back the clock 6, 7 years, decade, I would have bought it. That's why I'm upfront about it.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, that's a definite. I don't
Keep
deny
these
that.
around as a prop to show. I used to buy the basmati rice,
Gold, yes.
burlap bag.
Yes.
I believed in it. I drank the canola oil.
No, my God.
By not literally, but by believing that, whatever it was, grapeseed oil, olive oil, coconut oil, all that stuff was better. They were better fats, and they're just not. You got to eat the brown rice, you got to eat the quinoa, you got to eat the amaranth.
Got to
Yeah, have the
try
flaxseed.
and make your flaxseed bread, right?
There's pictures of it I'm sure on Facebook from like 5 years ago.
Did you guys ever try to make almond milk at home? That is a process. That's like a 3-day operation. Because you got to
Mm.
soak it, and you got to use this like cheesecloth thing to drain it right. Then you got to blend it with water. Yeah. It's nuts.
It's not
It's
milk.
nuts. It is nuts because it's nuts.
It is.
And the
Yeah.
crazy thing with canola oil, which is interesting, it's from the rapeseed.
Right.
You know, I mean, the word rapeseed, it literally rapes your body of nutrients. I mean, and people don't see that. People don't get that.
Well, and so the name canola oil is just a marketing name
Oh,
because this crop comes from Canada primarily. Canada, you know, it's way up north of us there. They have a shorter growing season. They can only grow certain crops, and they can only do it a certain amount of time.
oh.
So they decided to build an industry around squeezing the seed oil out of the rape seeds, right? But it's nasty and noxious when it comes out. It doesn't smell good. It doesn't taste good, right? So then it
Okay.
has to be deodorized and, you know, processed. So
Oh.
there's really, you know, they're like, hey, everybody's saying it's bad to eat animal fat, so let's make some sort of seed oil up here, vegetable oil up here that we can market. And it's from Canada, so they called it canola oil, right? Yeah.
Oh.
So it's not, and our ancestors clearly weren't walking around eating rape seeds, much less squeezing the oil out of them. So,
Or if they did, they're no longer ancestors, and we wouldn't be here.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, I mean, there could have been, you know, there were bipeds that ate nuts and stuff like that. There was sort of ancient hominid that lived on tiger nuts or something like that, but I've never even seen a tiger nut, so I don't know what it looks like. But anyways, you know, so we didn't evolve to eat that way, and that's pretty clear. I mean, tell people all the time, man, you just got to look at the fossil record to find out there was hardly any edible plants for us, right? And I ask people this all the time, or like I say, hey, what plants do we evolve to eat? You know, because if you go in the grocery store and you look at that produce section, basically none of that was available to us. Zero. Like you guys have seen the pictures of what apples and bananas and all that stuff used to look like.
Yeah, ancient man was just walking around with these KaChava shakes. That's how we evolved.
Yeah, I
It
saw a
was-
dig site the other day where they actually found a blender ball from a shake cup that's, you know, it's like 100,000 years old or something. So
And they had the Vitamix when we were like first born. They had the Vitamix right there in the caveman times. They had the whole Vitamix the
it
whole
was
time.
hand cranked, but yeah, it was a
Yeah.
Vitamix.
Yeah.
So,
And they had electricity.
But Tom, what about the stone tools we see with the what is it, the cylinder with the
Yeah, oh, I know what you're
pestle
talking
and
about.
mortar type thing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, well, that doesn't come along till we start growing crops, really, you know. So roughly 10,000 years ago, they were people were starting to cultivate wheat in the area of the Levant, right? But then it takes a long time for crops like that to spread around the world. And of course, you know, it's not till after Columbus gets here that corn leaves the Americas and goes around the world. It may have, you know, there's some evidence that there might have been a little bit of that back a long time ago, because I mean we know now that like Egyptian mummies, they found the metabolites of cocaine and tobacco, and there's some images of corn in some of the ancient Egyptian reliefs. So there might have been a little bit of that, but obviously those crops didn't make it to modern time until, you know, the 1400s. They weren't producing them there. So a lot of these foods that we think of in a global context, even tomatoes and a lot of squashes and stuff, they actually came from the New World, or as they call it, the Americas, and then spread to Europe and Asia from there. So there wasn't this big variety until people started, you know, cultivating them. And of course, the thing you have to do is you get it from one climate to another, and then you've got to get it to adjust to the new climate, and then you got to make it less toxic to humans, right? Because a good example is potatoes. All wild potatoes are toxic to human beings,
Even if it's cooked.
Yeah, well, there's different ways to detoxify it, but how long ago did we start using fire?
I
30
don't know.
30,000 years ago, 40,000 years ago. But we clearly followed mammoths into northern Europe in the onset of an ice age, even before we have any evidence for us using fire. And that's the thing about human beings; they can tolerate a wide variety of environments, including the cold, as long as we have a good food source and something to make our clothes out of. So I'm thinking I could make a whole wardrobe out of a mammoth hide. I don't know about you guys.
I believe you could. Well, I certainly could. I mean, there's a lot less skin for need to be covered up on me compared to you, Tom. But
That's true.
nothing else. We could shave the rest for a loincloth for yourself.
Right. Yeah, no. So, and of course, I think we probably ate as much fish and shellfish and stuff like that as we could get our hands on as well. Because human beings are like the only primate that can really just jump in the water and hold their breath. And we have to wonder, why is it that we can talk? It's like a gorilla can't talk. You can't vocalize words like we can, but they can learn sign language. And that's because they can't control their breath the way we can. So, and some of the primates, like, chimps and stuff, will walk out in the water, and once they get out in the water, they'll walk on two legs because the water helps keep them upright. But we can dive under the water, we can catch fish, we can do stuff like that the other primates can't do because they can't control their breath.
You guys ever see Castaway?
Tom Hanks?
Yeah.
And Wilson?
So,
yeah,
Wilson. So the interesting thing about that movie is that he started off eating coconuts, and it was a laxative effect. And he was talking to Wilson, and he said, "Thank God there's crab." Like, he instinctually knew, like, he needed animal. So, like, he knew, like, he was, and that's kind of the thing. Like man must have knew what they needed. Like, when they were born, like in the brain, like, okay, I need to go hunt. And I, it's just, even talking with you guys, it's really amazing.
It appears what happened was before humans, when we had early hominids, so I don't know, Homo erectus or whatever, they probably came across the remains of animals that were killed by other animals and finished them off. Because a lot of times, like, I know here you see it all the time, coyotes eat the midsection of a cat, leave the legs behind, right? Leave the head behind. The long bones are intact. And hominids like us have been smashing open those bones and eating the marrow out of it and cutting the muscle tissue, the meat off of the legs and stuff for at least 3.7 million years. And we clearly see that in the fossil record. And that rich source of fat from the brain and the bone marrow is probably what allowed our brains to grow so big. So while the wolves and the big cats might eviscerate the animals and pull all the guts out and eat them, eat the liver and stuff like that, and not leave much of that behind, we apparently did pretty well scavenging until we evolved again and to become hunters. I mean, and by this time we're walking fully upright. We've got a shoulder that can throw, which the other primates can't do very well. We can wade around in the water. We can dive under the water. We can see over the grass in the savannas. There's the idea that we learned to walk upright because we could see over the grass and hunt and we could persistence hunt in the savannas. And there's also the aquatic ape theory that we evolved either from more aquatic primates or because we were in and out of the water a lot. So I don't know that we really need to pick a winner in that. I don't know that we really have enough evidence to pick a winner, but the adaptations for modern humans make sense. But the giant brain does kind of require a good fat source, plenty of omega-3 fatty acids, right? So
I just wanted to dovetail on Chris's point about the Castaway. It's not even a fictional story. You can watch that show Naked and Afraid, and the contestants that are plant-based or vegetarian, vegan, they don't fare as well as those that are omnivores or eat meat, you know. I think there was an episode where to survive, one of the ladies that was vegetarian or something, I think she ended up eating meat because she was like starving, you know, and having like a huge headache and having a lot of problems. So yeah, I mean, it's right there. We've legitimate now examples of this in our modern culture, you know, just in the show.
Yeah, absolutely. What does hominis mean, Tom? Just to
Well,
ask.
hominids are basically the line of animals that evolved to be human beings, right? So
Oh,
there's
okay.
like this tree of, there's lots of, you know, different species that kind of popped off the tree in different directions, and then some of them came back and remixed. So we
Oh,
have DNA from the Neanderthals,
okay.
which
Okay.
well, we could apparently interbreed with Neanderthals, but Neanderthals and modern humans are different, but our time overlapped. And so like we get the gene for red hair from Neanderthals. So, you know, the average person probably has like 2 to 4% of Neanderthal DNA. And then there's also another species called Denisovans. So the Denisovans, they, in like Nepal and stuff, when they climb Mount Everest and stuff like that, the locals will help carry gear up because those people are really well adapted to high altitude. They have a genetic adaptation that keeps their blood from thickening at high altitude, and they know
Wow.
now that that genetic adaptation came from the Denisovans. Again, another like us, but a little different from us. And it gets fuzzy because it used to be thought that different species were different species because they couldn't breed together. But now we know we could breed with Neanderthals, so are we really a different species? And then we obviously could breed with Denisovans. So are we different species really? No, but we would look a little different. We'd have, different complexions, different types of body hair, different amounts of body hair, different amounts of muscle and bone and stuff like that. So we're a little different. And we all kind of evolved and then started mixing again, So we have a little bit of, we think of it in modern terms like, oh, if you're black, you came from, Central Africa, sub-Saharan Africa. If you're Asian, you came from, look Asian, you came from the Asian area. If you're white, you came from Europe or something like that. But the truth is, when you look back, you find out that people were migrating all over the place. And the people that live there now aren't necessarily the people that lived there before, you know. So if you can to look at the DNA from an Egyptian mummy from, 3,000 years ago, it doesn't match the people that live there now, or it matches very, very few people there. So people come and go from an area and they bring their genes with them, so populations go off and, there's little genetic changes and, they might be isolated for a while and they start looking and sounding, a certain way. And then they mix with another population and those genes that sort of popped up over time get mixed together. So
It's amazing.
yeah, so we're all basically hybrids, we just didn't know it until they started doing all kinds of testing on DNA. So
Wow.
yeah.
It's awesome. It's so funny. I think we got off topic, but is it really tie all together? Because we talked Chystes and that product, and then we jumped into the more animal-based and how we're animal-based. I hopefully, because I'm tying it all together.
Yeah, well, we go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Tom. I'm done.
I was going to say we could tie it together because what we find is, a lot of these produce and plant-based foods from all over the world, you do find people that eat those in those places, but that's because they didn't have enough meat, right? Then they start cultivating plants to eat, and that really doesn't start in earnest until the fauna get wiped out. So all the giant herds of mammoths and mastodons and three-toed sloths and all these other megafauna, They start dying out like 12 to 14,000 years ago. And then we start trying to cultivate grains and stuff like that, like roughly 10,000 years ago. There may have been people that grew rice a little older than that, but those are very remote developments, right? The whole world's not doing it at that time. But wheat spreads very well because people start taking it with them wherever they go. But so that's why the change in diet. So we found plants that we could adapt so that we could eat them, but we did it.
Or did they adapt us so that we could grow it?
Right. They make the argument that wheat sort of exploited human beings for its own propagation. So yeah. I think that was in Sapien, the book.
Yeah, Sapiens. Yeah.
The book. So so anyways, the thing is we've forgotten that the original food was always meat, and we can produce quality meat, humanely raised animals, and we can actually improve the environment. We could pull carbon out of the air, we can improve soil quality, we can reduce runoff, and we can do it in a way where there's plenty of room for it. People are always talking about, oh well, there's not enough farmland or whatever, but cattle and pigs and chickens and turkeys and guinea fowl and all that, they could be raised on land that's not fit for planting crops.
Yeah. And wheat, it sounds like weed, just grows like a weed. And plants, it's so funny because I hear the vegan conversation where they said, oh, plants save the world and this and that. But in all truth, they take a lot of room up and they go extremely fast. And you need cows in the hoofs. You need to turn the soil, and the ecosystem needs to be connected, and it can't be this whole war, and I mean, the plants are for other predators. And, I was thinking about this the whole time, and I mentioned this to my parents. I say, just why do we cry when we cut an onion? Because we're not supposed to eat it. That's it's giving us a sign like,
right.
Hello.
It's an irritant. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Garlic, like, ugh.
Yeah.
Like my stomach, like, well, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, let's not start talking bad things about garlic, though. Come on, still delicious.
Hey, I'm half Italian. I'll talk bad things about garlic. Forget about it.
Yep. So we live in a wacky world where cooking is brought to a high art. It mostly evolves around making your food taste like something other than what it is, right? I mean, hey, just try and pull some garlic out of the ground and just try and eat it.
Oh my God.
Pleasant. Or just peel a raw onion, just bite into it, right?
Oh, I could never.
Some people do it, but
yeah.
The biggest mistake I made, I didn't know this about plants, but I had a Juice Man Jr. because I saw Jack LaLanne. So my sister,
childhood hero of mine.
So my sister was like, Chris, you should get a juicer, because she was 2 years older than me. Come on, Chris, get a juicer, man. Yeah, get a juicer. I'm like, okay. So here I'm getting a juicer. I'm like, yeah, I got a juicer. I'm gonna get my fresh produce. And all of a sudden, I'm like sick. I'm like, I'm gonna juice some garlic and onion. The biggest mistake I ever made in my whole entire life. So I juice garlic and onion, folks. I don't do this, guys, by the way. On an empty stomach, drank it. Woo! I was hurled over on the couch, baby. It was not nice. And so you talk about contractions. I think I was pregnant. So it's really plants. I'm telling you folks out there, stop getting brainwashed. I mean, just take the certain examples that we're talking about here. And why do they have to put it with sugar, this product we're talking about? So it doesn't, so you can hide the flavor. Think why your children don't want to eat vegetables. Mommy, I don't. Think about it. Just stop and think about it. It's all right in front of us.
Yeah, I had a friend just not that long ago was trying to tell me how good garlic was for us. And, there's one thought is that garlic is kind of antiseptic, right? So it kills off microbes. And then, you know, like there's a compound in it called allicin that kills the H. pylori and stuff like that. But when you read into it, you find out that like as soon as you crack open that garlic, those compounds start breaking down, you know. And it's just like the seed oils. It's like as soon as you squeeze that oil out of a rape seed or an olive or whatever, it starts oxidizing. And it's an inferior fat to animal fat to begin with, but it starts turning rancid really fast because it's not meant to survive outside of the seed that we squeeze it out of. Corn oil, you know, some of them are tougher than others. Flaxseed's a little tougher. You know, peanut oil has a much higher it handles heat better and is less likely to catch on fire, but they all oxidize, you know.
Yeah.
Olive oil is always hailed as a good oil, and it might be better than some of the other seed oils, but it's not. They're all inferior to animal fat. So
That's so true.
Speaking of animal fat, wanted to compare if you got that pulled up, Tom.
Oh, you want to see that graphic again?
Yeah, well, just so that you know, I feel like meat is oftentimes only associated with protein and fat, and people don't think about vitamins being in meat.
Yeah,
so we don't have the time to do a side-by-side comparison, but you know, you got to remember the bioavailability and you know, the amino acids, which aren't pictured here because they're not vitamins. But the fat you're getting here, so from KaChava, you're not going to get any of this fat. Well, I think there's a little bit from the MCT and coconut, but you're certainly going to get more monosaturated fat from the ribeye. And vitamin C not pictured, but there is vitamin C in steak. It's about 10 grams or so, or 10 milligrams, sorry, not 10 grams. But this is all you need, basically, just a ribeye. Unlike the shake that said you have to mix it with other things, you know, don't use it as its only food source. You could actually, and there's several people in our community that do, have 3 ribeyes a day, which would be overdoing it a little bit. We don't know that many people that can eat 3 ribeyes in a day, aside from Sean. Tom,
speak for yourself. This is a little 8 ounce. These nutritional values in this graphic for an 8 ounce steak.
Yeah, this is nothing, Justin. I would wreck it.
Yeah, Justin, you're talking about two guys that are both twice your size. Come on.
Yeah,
I can still out eat both of you. I was trying to talk to the average person. All right.
You can't eat a lot for 8.
Yeah, don't be delusional, Justin.
You can eat it faster than I can for sure. But Chris, would you say he's being a jabroni right now?
He's being delusional. I'll eat him under the table anytime, anywhere, no problem. I'll take him on anytime.
But seriously, 8 ounce steak, that's a small steak.
If
you're a carnivore, that's a small steak.
Yeah, it's tiny.
That's a snack. That's true.
Yeah. That's how many calories are you oxidizing these days, Justin? Would your watch say?
I think it's like 1,200 or so.
So you'd have to eat at least 2 of these a day.
Just to maintain. This beautiful girly figure of mine.
And New York strip's really good too. New York strip steak's really good. And I just want to comment on the whole vitamin C. I think you told me this too, Justin. Meat, and for the folks that listening to this, meat has, I don't know what it has, but Justin can probably, or Tom can explain this more. But you know, the vitamin C is because something's produced in our body where it doesn't need a lot of vitamin C. And plus, just to let you know, when you have meat, the inflammation is cut down so much in the body, it's less susceptible getting sick. The reason why we get sick is because of the sugar the plant deoxylates. It blocks nutrients because the enzyme inhibitors. If you keep blocking your body from the right nutrition, you're going to get sick, period. It's inevitable. But once you cut that out and focus on the meat, it's a whole different world. So would you guys mind going more into the vitamin C deal? Why? Because I know you guys know that.
Well, I'll make a couple of quick points. Number one, human beings stopped producing vitamin C in our evolution, where most other animals make their own vitamin C endogenously, but we don't, because and the reason why we evolved that way is because we don't need to. If we're eating meat, we just need a little bit of vitamin C that it has. When you're not eating carbohydrates compete for the transporter for vitamin C. So when you're eating starches and sugars and stuff like that, you need more vitamin C because it's not making its way through the system as well. And then I had one other point about it. I forgot.
Well, I always talk about the glucose transport,
Right.
of how it shares with vitamin C. So if you have orange juice, your body is actually ignoring the vitamin C because it has to process all the glucose and sugar, because too much glucose, i.e. sugar, in your body is toxic. So it's going to completely, the vitamin C gets left at the train station basically, and it's taken all the glucose it can. Because like I said, in that bloodstream, it's toxic. So it can't be leaving it around. Vitamin C can process later or excrete it with no issue to the body, more or less. I'm sure a bit of it gets absorbed, but yeah, it's, again, one of these biggest issues with plants is malabsorption, low absorption, or no absorption, and about getting sick. So when you are filling your body with these toxins and stuff like this, you're getting these autoimmune and immune responses. You're messing with your mucous membranes. You're messing with your natural, what is it? Not fauna, but in the gut bacteria. Flora, yeah, the intestinal flora and things like that. And so, yeah, what keeps us from being ill is other bacteria, in us, and the white blood cells that can't tackle anything. And when you're eating plants, when you're eating processed food, your white blood cells are attacking your body and attacking that stuff because it's foreign and it's causing inflammation. So yeah, that's why, eating the steak. And so, yeah, so basically you take all these values and you got to triple them here, because that's honestly probably what bare minimum double what the average carnivore eats.
Yep.
And I think the other biggest lie, thinking about that product we talk about, is meal replacement supplement. A lot of people think these multivitamins help, and unfortunately, going back to the same thing, it's all really basically from plant-based, unless you get like I don't know, Paul Saladino's company. I don't know if he's still doing it, but there are meat-based supplements. But basically, but that's a whole different topic. But basically, the regular Centrium, don't get Centrium, but it's all these dyes and soy stuff. It's horrible. So I just wanted to, key on that factor too. People think it's like they're getting their fix of nutrients, and it's not.
Yeah, and again, when we eat meat, it's readily absorbed. And of course, a lot of people will talk about the studies that are done on people with ileostomies, where they're essentially they attach the small intestine to the outside of the body. So when you eat the food, whatever's left over of the food comes right out into a bag on your side, right? And they know that when they feed people meat, there's very little waste that comes out and it's being readily absorbed. And this is not the case when you eat plant-based nutrition. So startling sort of revelation was that if you're eating some oysters because they're rich in zinc, and you also eat them with black beans, the phytic acid in the black beans will block your body from absorbing the zinc, or at least half the zinc, from the oysters. So not only can you not absorb nutrients from plant foods as well, but it'll actually the chemicals in the plants will block you from absorbing some of the nutrition from the meat that you're eating with the plants.
Right.
So don't have a ribeye with KaChava. That's not what we're saying to do. It's probably not going to work out.
Yes. So the nutrition in the meat is more bioavailable. Like you guys were saying earlier, the microbiome, or the intestinal flora, breaks down our food for us, passes it through the wall of the intestine into the bloodstream. And when you eat meat, almost all that fat and protein goes right through the cell walls or through the thin single layered cell walls of the small intestine right into the bloodstream. It doesn't have to go to the large intestine to be ruminated,
That's right.
turned into nasty gas and stuff like that. So that's how we know that meat's more bioavailable than the plants. And then of course,
Waste not, want not.
one of the great comparisons is, we all grew up thinking carrots are good for us. They're got full of vitamin A, is good for our eyes. And it turns out that, carrots don't actually have, and modern carrots look nothing like the original carrot, just so everybody knows. We didn't evolve eating modern carrots. But that vitamin A that's in carrots is actually beta carotene, which is actually not vitamin A. It's two molecules like vitamin A combined together, because real vitamin A is retinol. So half the population of the world cannot convert any of that beta carotene into retinol, which is true vitamin A. So half the population can eat all the carrots they want. It's not going to give them a dose of vitamin A. The other half of the population is somewhere between 1% to 50% conversion. So there's a good example where plant-based nutrition is inferior to just eating meat. And unfortunately, that's true.
What's 1% with 50? You said 1% to 50%. What's that? Yeah.
So half of the people in the world will get no vitamin A out of a carrot. They just, their bodies can't convert it. The other half get from 1% to 50% conversion.
Oh, okay.
So you've got to convert.
Yeah. Is 50% good or no?
Well, it just goes to show that you're at the best case scenario, you're going to get half the vitamin A out of the carrot.
Okay.
But that's a very small, that's 1% of the population can do that.
Wow.
1% of all the people can do that, right?
Wow.
Half of the people can't get any.
Wow. Wow. So it's 100% with the steak.
Yeah. Assuming you don't have some crazy disorder, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
You'll get all the vitamin A. It'll get absorbed. And that's up to the body what it's going to do with it. But that's the difference between plant-based nutrition and just eating meat, is that meat is bioavailable. You don't have to convert beta carotene into retinol because it's got retinol in it.
Wow. Wow.
Yep, we're a walking, talking chemical experiment at all times.
Yeah. Just don't take a match to my ass. Boom. That's only if I'm on plants.
Right. All right, guys. Well, you guys got any other points to make?
I feel like I tore the shake a new one, which is what I wanted to do.
So you guys gonna order a bag and give it a try?
No, I don't know. I may tear it up a little bit or not, but who knows? But if I consistently stay on every Sunday, I'll probably just meat it all the time and eat meat. I gotta get brainwashed too again.
There you go. All right. Well, we hope people out there enjoyed the conversation, the witty banter, and we hope that you'll pass a link to this video on to other people. We hope you subscribe to the channel. Of course, like we said, we have both long format and short format videos. The short ones are called short ribs. We try and get out at least one short and one long every week. Sometimes we get a little more. And it really helps if you help us grow the channel. So we'd like to get the word out that eating meat can be a great benefit to a lot of people. And so we'd like to try and explain why in everyday terms. And we'd like to help people out there feel better and to enjoy life a little more. So
make sure you leave us a comment. Are you going to be buying some KaChava? Have you tried plant-based shakes before? Did you do juicing? Yeah, and are you now doing steaks, or do you still like the occasional?
Did you meet Jack LaLanne as a child? And dude was a monster. I met him one time. He came to do he was actually just cheering people on. I grew up in Pasadena, and we had that Rose Parade every year. So
Mhm.
a lot of times you'll get to go decorate floats, go glue flowers and leaves on things. And he came down there one time, and he was like, "Oh yeah, you guys doing a great job. Hey, let's stop and do some calisthenics. Everybody do some jumping jacks with me." Yeah, so you see him on TV swimming to Catalina, towing a bunch of boats behind him and stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you get a chance to talk to him? I mean, was he
Oh, I just
any
shook
kind of
his
meat?
hand, and
Oh.
just shook his hand. And there's, I wasn't like having a conversation with him or whatever, but yeah.
You think he ate meat? He had to eat meat, right?
I think he did, but he pushed a lot of like juicing and stuff like that too, And the guy was a physical specimen well into his older years, he was strong and fit and stuff like that. So
wow. Huh. Okay.
anyways, but yeah, we hope everybody out there eats plenty of meat, feels better, and whatever you do,
Don't fall down the
carb
carb hole.